Good morning.
Good morning.
Last Sunday morning we talked about 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. We talked about sufficient grace, how the Lord told the Apostle Paul, "My grace is sufficient." God has done everything that God needs to do in order to provide us the opportunity to be saved.
Amen.
Everything. By sending His Son to die upon the cross, by giving us His Word, the Bible, by creating this universe, really, and creating us, He's done everything that He needs to do. So His grace, things that we couldn't do, His grace is sufficient. He doesn't really have to do anything more. He does do more. He does help us in so many ways, but He doesn't have to do anything more. Well, why is His grace sufficient? What is it? What's the key, or why is he telling the Apostle Paul that his grace is sufficient? Well, you look at the rest of that verse. The Lord tells Paul, "For my power is made perfect in weakness." The Lord's power is made perfect or complete in weakness. In other words, He doesn't leave it up to us to try to get to Him. Yes, there are things that we need to do. There's work that we need to accomplish. There are growth structures that we need to accomplish in our lives. Yes, there are things that we need to obey. But His grace is sufficient because it helps us who are weak. It helps us, and that makes His power complete. And it's demonstrated in so many different ways through the Bible. I just want to go back. A short lesson this morning, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 32 is where we're going to take the pattern for this. The Hebrew writer, in that great chapter that's called the Honor Roll of Faith, he talks about all the Old Testament characters. Some of them he talks a lot about. Some of them he just mentions briefly. And there are three men in particular that he mentions briefly. What more shall I say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, and Samuel, and the prophets. And I think what the Hebrew writer is telling us is we need to go back and we need to examine some of these people and to look at them and see what God was doing in their lives. That God's grace was sufficient for them. God was giving them everything they needed, that if they would just step up, His grace was sufficient, that the power then would be made complete or perfect in them to accomplish the goals that God needed them to complete. And that would give us the encouragement, give us the hope, give us the faith to accomplish the tasks, the goals that God needs us to accomplish for Him. Yes. And in the process, work out our own salvation with fear and trembling, as Paul tells us in the book of Philippians. So let's look at three of these characters this morning to see how the Lord's strength was made perfect in their lives. Gideon, Barak, and David. Now Gideon, character from the book of Judges. We recently looked at the book of Judges and we noticed those cycles, right? The cycles that the children of Israel would fall into idolatry, they'd be punished by God. God would let some foreign power or some internal power, like the Canaanites that they allowed to live in the land, made peace treaties with, thought that they could control those people. Ended up, those people started controlling them through their idolatry. God would punish them. Eventually, they would repent, so God would allow the judge or deliverer to lead them, to drive away the enemy, destroy the enemy, and then they would do good for a little while, maybe a generation, and they'd slip back into their bad ways. Well, Gideon lived in Israel at a time of great despair, and Judges chapter 6 through 8 tell the story of Gideon. Israel had forsaken God for idols. God was chastising them through the Midianites. We hear a lot in the Bible about the Midianites, and that we're told about that in Judges chapter 6 and verse 6. When the Lord came to Gideon, he was hiding. He was threshing wheat in a wine press. Now, why would you thresh wheat in a wine press? Because you're hiding. You don't want to be out in the open. You know, threshing wheat, you're out there. You want the wind to take and blow the chaff away. But he's down in a wine press where you press the grapes and the wine comes down. He's hiding because the Midianites, if they saw him threshing wheat out in the open, they'd come and they'd take the wheat. They'd demand at least a part of the wheat. So just for survival, they had to hide. Many of the common everyday things that they were doing. So when the Lord told Gideon to deliver Israel, Gideon has an excuse, doesn't he? Remember what an excuse is? Skin of the truth stuffed with a lie. He had an excuse. And what does he say? Judges chapter 6, verse 15. Please, Lord, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan, my little family, is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. Now, his tribe was Manasseh. If you remember who Manasseh was. Manasseh was Joseph's clan. Ephraim and Manasseh were the sons of Joseph. Joseph got a double portion, right? He comes from a brave, leading family. But also remember that half the tribe of Manasseh didn't even want to go into the promised land. They settled on the east side of the Jordan River. Oh yeah, they come in, they help, they fought battles and stuff to help secure the tribal areas, but they weren't on the outside. So here he is. Oh, we're not a very important people here, and I'm poor. I'm the least in my family's house. I'm the youngest. You know, I got older brothers, and get one of them to do it. Well, God, you're picking on the wrong guy here. Now, how many times do we see that in Scripture? Think about Moses. Who am I to go and rescue the children of Israel, bring them out of Egyptian captivity? I'm not a very good speaker. Now, Aaron, my brother, my older brother, now, there's the guy you want to go talk to, Lord. Right. Excuses. God doesn't call the rich. God doesn't call the important people to do His will. God calls the people He wants to call. And what is it? He calls the people that He wants to do the work, and then He gives them, He hasn't given them the tools ahead of time, but He'll give them the tools to get the work done. Material wealth is typically a hindrance to doing God's will. Now, yeah, he's poor, but what has he got to lose? Matthew chapter 19, verse 16 through 22 gives us an idea. You remember the rich young ruler, right? Comes to Jesus, bows down before a good master. What must I do to inherit eternal life? Sell everything you have, give the money to the poor. What? Don't do that. You must not want to inherit eternal life. Now, see, it wasn't necessary to do that because nowhere in the scriptures does it say that other than that one place. Because Jesus was talking to somebody who had a problem with covetousness. And what he's telling him essentially is, you overcome your covetousness and you're going to have it made. You'll be fit for the kingdom of heaven. Now, somebody may not have a problem with covetousness. They may have trouble with some other commandment, whatever. Well, that's what they've got to deal with. And God will help them deal with that. He wasn't looking to deal with that. He wanted something to do. Hey, think of Naaman, the leper. Comes down to the prophet. Go dip 7 times in the Jordan River. Your skin will be white as snow. Your leprosy will be gone. Oh man, I thought he'd come out and he'd wave his arms and wave his hands over it and make a big deal out of this. I'm an important person here. And there are much cleaner rivers up in my home country than this Jordan River's a muddy river. God can do wonderful things. Wonderful. If we allow him to do it. So he chooses sometimes very weak and sometimes people who believe themselves to be very weak and incapable to prove his strength. His strength. Before Gideon could get to work, though, remember he had some moral challenges to overcome. Remember what moral challenges, ethical challenges, and other things. Remember we talked about Paul, right? When he solved Tarsus, he had 3 handicaps, right? Gideon had some handicaps. Number 1, he didn't have confidence in himself. Number 2, he was hiding in the first place. Number 3, his dad was an idolater. His father was an idolater. His father had a grove of idols that was there for the whole town to come and worship. First thing Gideon had to do was get an ox, or a team of oxen, and a plow, and go out and plow up that grove of idols. Destroy it. When he got done, he tore up the plow, built an altar, and offered the oxen as a sacrifice to God. And when the townspeople found out what he did, they wanted to kill him. And they expected his father to punish him, kill him for what he had done. Brothers and sisters, that was in Israel. This was God's people, a sanctified people doing this. But you know what? He won a battle, didn't he? He had to win the battle with himself first before he could move on to win the battle against the Midianites. And isn't that amazing, the battle of the Midianites? Remember how that story takes place? How that God gives them the victory because they go out and they kind of surround the enemy and they got their lamps in the jars. But it's just the message. Hey, the God of Israel sending this guy Gideon up there with an army. He's going to come up here and destroy us. And they get around the enemy, and the trumpet blows, and they break the jars with their lamps in it, and there they are. And what was the phrase they used for God, for Gideon and for the God of Israel? Something of that nature. And the Midianites are so scared they start running, and they slaughter them. God gave them the victory. So, though he was born poor, by the grace of God, Gideon was a deliverer for his nation. His strength, the Lord's strength was made perfect in Gideon, because Gideon was willing to do the Lord's will. Barak. I always said Barak before until Barak became president. I think maybe that's the way you're supposed to say it. I don't know. Barak. You say Barak, I say Barak. I say Barak, you say whatever. Tomato, tomato. Barak in Judges chapter 4. As was common in the days of Judges during the life of Barak, Israel was at war. Why were they at war? Because they had walked away from God. Once again, God allowed the Canaanites to arise against them. They were led by a man by the name, or their ruler was King Jabin. His captain was Sisera. That was the military leader. The prophetess Deborah was judging Israel at that time. Judges chapter 4 and verse 5. Now, why was a woman leading? Why was a woman judging, delivering Israel? Did you ever wonder that? I'll tell you why. Because all the men were cowards. One thing, men standing up to do the job, so a woman had to stand up and do it. It was a shameful thing for the men when the women were doing the job. Now, that's no slight on the women, is it? Is it? Of course not. But the men were cowards. So she was the judge and a prophetess. By inspiration, Deborah called Barak, to lead 10,000 men in battle against Sisera. She prophesied that the enemy would be delivered in his hand, Judges chapter 4 and verse 7. But Barak was afraid. And he refused to go to battle unless, guess what? I'll go if you go with me. Deborah, I'll go fight. I'll go do it. I'll go do what the Lord wants to do, but you got to go with me. It's like, I'll go if you go hold my hand. Can you imagine that? It just... She says, okay, I'll go with you. But I'll tell you, you're going to win the battle, but you're not going to get glory. Because you're still a coward. You're not standing up. You're not being a man. She went with him, and the glory of the victory didn't go to a woman. If you remember the story, if you've read it, Sisera is getting beat. His forces are getting beat. He has to run to the battle. Now, before that, he had been in cahoots or an ally with Heber the Canaanite. And before the battle, well, Heber the Canaanite decided he wasn't going to be a part of it. He goes to a tent. Now, the tent happens to be the tent of Heber the Canaanite. But Heber is not there. His wife is there. Her name is Jael, Jael. And he says, I'm running, help me, hide me. So she invites him into the tent. Comes over, he lays down, goes to sleep. She takes a tent peg and a hammer, and while he's sleeping, smashes it through his temple, kills him. And she gets the glory for winning the battle. Now God gave a great victory to Israel, to Barak. I mean, the army was under his leadership. But listen to this, Judges chapter 4, verses 23 and 24. So on that day, God subdued Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the people of Israel. And the hand of the people of Israel pressed harder and harder against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they destroyed Jabin, the king of Canaan. Thus God used a man whose weakness was fear to subdue a nation. He still didn't get the glory, except here, in the book of Hebrews, But think of that. I'll go if you go with me. Strength is made perfect. God, the Lord's strength is made perfect. How about David? I talk a lot about David. David's one of my favorite characters. 1 Samuel chapter 17, where the bulk of the material comes from, but really go back to chapter 16, shows how David is such a great example of God overcoming weakness to show his strength. Now, faith was not a weakness of David. David always had faith in God. David had other handicaps, all right? In chapter 16, when Samuel comes to Jesse's house to anoint the next king of Israel, because Saul's going to be out, right? Saul's a bad dude, right? No heart for God, remember? No heart for God. He's going to be gone. Next king's going to have a whole heart for God. But here comes Samuel to anoint the next king at Jesse's house. David's not even there. Jesse, get all your sons together. You're going to anoint the next king. He gets all his sons together, but he doesn't bring David in. David's still out with the sheep. So Samuel looks at all the sons. Here's the oldest one. Surely this is the one. Of course, it didn't go. Now up the next one. No. Goes through all those sons that are there. No. Sure this is all your sons? Is there another one? Yeah, another one. He's out with the sheep, but he's just a stripling. You know what a stripling is? Go home, open your refrigerator, take out your package of bacon and hold up a strip of bacon. That's what a stripling is. That's what your next king's going to be. A teenager, red hair, ruddy complexion. Remember Jody on Family Affair? Yeah. When David comes in, Samuel looks at him and says, "Oh, that's not me." Handicap? Weakness? But hey, I killed a bear, and I killed a lion protecting my father's farm because he had a heart for God. He could overcome the physical handicaps he had. So Samuel wasn't impressed, and God was, because God looks at the heart. And even at that young age, David was a man after God's own heart, full of faith, hope, and love. David never ascribed his accomplishments to his own power. He never said, "Look at me, look what I'm doing. look through all the Psalms, look through all that's written about him, 1st, 2nd Samuel, and book 1st Chronicles, he's always giving glory to God. Matthew chapter 9, verse 13, 14, then children are brought to him, that's Jesus, that he might lay his hands on them and pray. The disciples rebuked the people, but Jesus said, let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for to such belongs the kingdom of heaven. And you think about that, why would Jesus say that? It's because he wants us full of faith, but he wants us with those childlike qualities of an innocence and forgiveness. Sometimes children will get hurt by another child, and they'll cry a little bit, and maybe in an hour or so they're back out there playing together again. It's what's going on. There's forgiveness there. They don't hold grudges, well, maybe a little bit, but there's just things that sometimes we as an adult consider as a weakness that are really strengths in children. Humility, forgiveness, trust. Those are the things that make us available for God's use. That's where God can really make his power perfect or complete within the individual to get things accomplished. So David trusted so very much in God that he had no fear facing Goliath. Man, if I had to face Goliath, I wouldn't know what to do. I sure want my sidearm. Well, David had his sidearm, but still, it's like, boy, that's a challenge. He had to wait out Saul. Now, I won't raise my hand against the Lord's anointed. Wait for somebody else to do it. And really, what it amounted to was Saul just destroying himself. David stood tall in the presence of God, regardless of what happened. So, Jesus says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my powers make perfect in weakness. So there's no excuse that any one of us can give for not doing God's will. Because anytime we make an excuse, we have to remember it doesn't matter to the Lord. Because he can make up for that weakness. He can make up for whatever excuse we lay down before him to take the weakness. Did you ever think of it that way? I hope so. I hope so. I hope you will, whatever, the next time anything comes up. So, we naturally try to hide our weaknesses because we don't want people to think we're weak. But really, we ought to allow God to use our weaknesses to help us overcome the things of this world. Anyway, that's where the power of the Lord will really come to us and help us alone as we grow our faith, make our journey on toward our eternal life. Hey, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. If you have need, let your request be made known. So stand and sing the